We are live for another episode of AskASwimPro. I am Ksebati, joined by the lovely
Paige Walters. How's it going, guys?
And we are going to answer your questions. So while we wait for the questions to start populating in, we see them on Instagram and also we're live on Facebook.
Yep.
We'll catch them. Oh, we have actually a special guest today. Check it out. This is a new member of the team. And yeah, so ask us some questions. We have a few that were submitted early, and I guess we'll jump into those right away. So one of the questions was about swimming in open water versus swimming in the pool, because it's like a huge difference. You know, one, you can see the bottom, you have a lane line, you can stop every 25 or 50 distance, and then when you go to open water, like if you're doing triathlon, it can be really hard to like transition. So a lot of people ask like, well, how do you go from one to the other? And I'll start by saying that you should always try and focus on training in a pool to start, just because you can work on your technique a lot easier, but you definitely want to work on transitioning into open water over time. And there are things you can do in the pool to prepare you for open water, even if you don't have access to an open water training. So for example, you can work on sighting, which is where you lift your head up to breathe so that you can spot where you are in the water and make sure you're going in the right direction. Because if you're training in open water, or if you compete in open water, you're not going to be able to see like where you're going necessarily. So it's really important that every 4 or 6 strokes, you lift up your head and you spot, so that way you know where you're at. And you can do that by you can set up a cone on the end of the pool, and every 4 or 6 strokes you can do like a series of 4 100s, and every 4 or 6 strokes you have to lift your head up and then spot the cone, and then once you make eye contact with the cone, you drop your head back down, and then you kind of go right into the next 6 strokes. So that's one thing you can do in the pool to prepare yourself for open water. And then another thing that you can do is swim in a crowded pool and get some of your friends to join you and literally swim all at the same time next to each other. So normally in a pool with lap lanes, you would have a circle swim, or you'd have split the lane and do sides. So you'd have one person on the left, one person on the right. Instead, try and have 4 people go at the same time to give you that feeling of the washing machine, which it's called. So that way you get a feel of what it's like to be in a really chaotic environment. Any other tips?
Yeah, I'd also recommend before your race to start training in the gear that you're going to be wearing. So if you're wearing a wetsuit, wear your wetsuit in the pool, get a feel for what it's going to be like. If you're wearing dark tinted goggles, get used to swimming with those. If you have a different cap, you're going to want to start incorporating that into your pool workouts before you start your open water swim competition. So, cool. We have some questions on Instagram.
Facebook. Okay, so Adam is saying that open water can be really scary sometimes. How do you get over the fear of open water? And so I think what we were talking about earlier is just getting comfortable in the pool with your technique, sighting, swimming in a really congested area. But when you go to open water, let's say you have a triathlon coming up or an open water race, a few weeks before that race, you want to go and get familiar with what that environment's going to look like. So let's say you're doing a local competition. If you can actually go to the beach and just, even if you don't even get in the water, if you're not allowed to for whatever reason, if you can just go and see what the environment is going to look like, it'll calm your nerves because you're going to be a lot more familiar and your head's going to be a lot more clear and comfortable with what you're about to do, just because you're able to see the environment that you're about to compete in. The next best thing is actually getting in the water and swimming part of the course that you're going to do on race day. So that way you have a feel, and you don't have to do a lot. So let's say you're doing a 5K open water race. You don't have to do a 5K and do the full race, but if you can just get in the water, go to the beach, even if you just splash around a little bit, it'll get you more comfortable with that environment. And that way, when you go to the actual race day, you'll feel a lot more confident in your abilities. And let's say you can't actually go to the race venue. Let's say you're traveling for the 5K or the triathlon or something like that. Most likely you can go to Google Maps and you can find what the course will look like. You can see pictures of prior years. You can read on different forums. You can read about what are some of the challenges that might be in the course. Like sometimes if you're swimming with the current in one part of it and then you're swimming against the current in a different part of it. So that way you can start to build a really basic race strategy. So that and that will eliminate a lot of the nerves that you might be feeling leading into the race. So there's some things you can do without even going to the venue. And if you have more questions about that, you can drop them in the comments below.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions here. We have one that's not related to open water swimming, but well, first of all, Sabrina, hello. You're asking.
Sabrina, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Sabrina's asking, are you guys swimmers? So yes, we are swimmers.
I didn't swim today yet. I'm swimming later tonight. I swim like 3 to 4 times a week. It's pretty good. We're going. Our whole company, AskASwimPro, we're going to nationals, so that's pretty cool. All right. So Adam is asking about a wetsuit. So how do you pick a wetsuit? So let's keep on the topic of open water and triathlon. So let's say you're doing a 5K open water race and you don't know if you should wear a wetsuit. You've never worn a wetsuit, so like how do you decide? So some races will actually require you to wear a wetsuit. Most don't. A lot of it has to do with the temperature of the water. If it's a longer race, like a 5K or a 10K, a lot of the times it's encouraged to wear a wetsuit because it'll help you with buoyancy, the temperature, and it'll make you feel a lot faster. Definitely a wetsuit is not required. I've done races where I'm the only one in a Speedo and everyone's wearing a wetsuit, so don't think you need to wear a wetsuit. When it comes to picking out a wetsuit, oftentimes you can actually try them out before buying them. And worst case scenario, if you don't have a wetsuit and all of a sudden you change your mind at the race that you want a wetsuit, a lot of times you can rent them for a small fee on the day of the race. Or if you check the race website, you can actually reserve your wetsuit to rent for the day of the race. And so if it doesn't have that information on the website, it's actually worth emailing the race director or people who are running the event and actually ask them if they have wetsuits available for renting. And then once if you've never worn a wetsuit, I'd encourage you to try it, and maybe you can borrow someone else's, or you can trial it at whoever, if there's a local shop that sells the different suits. Oftentimes they'll let you trial it. But once you get a feel for it, probably the biggest thing is making sure you put it on all the way, so that way you're not restricted with your upper body. That's what sometimes people, they don't pull the suit up all the way, and then you feel like you can't lift your arms all the way out of the water, which is not fun. So make sure like you actually put on the suit beforehand. You splash around a little bit in it. It goes back to getting yourself comfortable with the race environment. So if the day before or a few days before, you can go to the race, put the wetsuit on that you're going to wear, and then just swim a little bit, maybe a few hundred meters. It'll make you a lot more confident, and you'll feel really good because you've tried the wetsuit out. If you don't wear a wetsuit until race day, that's perfectly fine too. Just know that the wetsuit will keep you a little bit more buoyant. Not that you should rely on that buoyancy, but having that extra buoyancy definitely helps. I don't know, any other thoughts on the wetsuit?
Yeah, it's important to make sure you're not buying a wetsuit that's too big for you.
Yes.
It holds a lot of water, and it can really kind of make you feel heavier in the water if your wetsuit's too big. So always go a little smaller, tighter than you think you should. And what about different styles? So there's ones that have sleeves, there's ones without, there's full length,
Right on, there's different kinds of wetsuits. But first, RJ Walker 26 from Instagram says, amazing app, I use it daily as a former competitive swimmer. I recommend it to my peers almost weekly. Right on, we really appreciate the love. Sweet. Okay, so back to the wetsuit conversation. So some of the wetsuits, in triathlon, there's a onesie, and a onesie is sort of like a wetsuit, but it doesn't have the buoyancy. A lot of people wear a wetsuit on top of the onesie. So some will be like a high neck knee skin, so it'll go up to just above your knee. Some go all the way down to your ankles. Some are sleeveless, and some cover your entire arms and they're like a glove. And some actually have a cap that it covers your head as well. So the most basic one doesn't cover your arms, and it goes to just above your knee. That's also the most affordable wetsuit. So if you're looking at buying your first wetsuit or even trying one out, I would actually recommend getting one that covers less of your body, just so that you don't have any restriction with your upper body. The best wetsuits, the fastest wetsuit will cover your entire body and go all the way through your sleeves. And the really good wetsuits actually have paddles basically built into your forearm, so that way you actually get an easier feel of the water. But again, that's for a more experienced swimmer anyway, because you're going to get a little bit of restriction on your upper body. So if you're looking to buy your first wetsuit, maybe spending $100 to $200 to get no sleeves and it cuts off at your knee. I mean, wetsuits can go up to over $1,000, but there's no need in spending that kind of money, because the amount of improvement you'll get from the extra $1,000 is pretty marginal. So just having a wetsuit period is going to help you a lot. So don't go out and break the bank on your first wetsuit. I would recommend trying one out first and then getting a good feel of what you think.
We had a question from Tolga, the swimmer, asking about the subject that we're talking about. So for those of you who just joined, we're talking about open water swimming. So if you're doing a 5K, a 10K, a triathlon, we're talking about some tips for how you can transition from swimming in a pool to open water. So if you like, we got lots of questions.
Lots of questions coming in.
So leave us a comment of questions, or what are your tips for how you swim in open water?
Albin from Belgium, what's going on? How you doing? Joshua, thank you for everything. I'm really interested. Whoa, this guy makes a noise. Hi, monkey. Oh, look, we got some fans on the monkey. What's going on? Sweet.
This is from Acapulco, Mexico. Nice.
Yeah, so it's really when you're talking about wetsuits in open water, just know that if you don't have a wetsuit, that's perfectly okay. A lot of people wear a wetsuit, and not really because of the buoyancy, but because of the temperature. So, and actually on the other side, sometimes you can't wear a wetsuit because it's too hot. And so if you go to a lot of races that take place in in the Gulf and like the Middle East, they actually don't let you wear a wetsuit because the water temperature is so high. I think it's something around like 87 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's anything above that, you're not allowed to wear a wetsuit, which is really hot, 87 degrees. I mean, holy smokes! It's we're in Michigan, so we don't get any water that's up to 87 degrees. I have a question for you, Paige. So what do you think the biggest difference is between swimming indoors and outdoors? And we'll ask the fans too. So if you guys are watching live right now, tell us if you prefer to swim in an outdoor pool or an indoor pool. And I'm curious to know what Wade is also curious.
You mean like an ocean?
Anything. Yeah. So indoor versus outdoor.
Yeah, so definitely swimming in a lake or an ocean or a river, you're going to have currents. So your energy, you're going to have to be a lot more aware of how you're using your energy and be aware of where you're going in your direction. So in a pool, you have an easy line on the bottom of the pool. You can go straight. You know that all of your energy is being used to follow that same line. But when you're in an ocean, there's currents, there's people, there's a buoy. Maybe you have to swim sideways, swim on an angle. There's wind. There's also other conditions. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes it's...
Speaking of raining, Chris says what's up. He says he likes doing butterfly outside in the rain. Shout out to Chris. What's going on from Panama? And I saw some shout outs from Turkey. And I saw, another from Turkey. We got a lot from Turkey. What's going on? Istanbul.
But I like swimming outside. I love being in the sun. Another difference is if you're swimming backstroke. When you're indoors, you can track. I love it.
The monkey's doing backstroke.
When you're swimming backstroke indoors, you can track. You can follow along the tiles on the ceiling and see if you're actually going straight. But if you decide to do backstroke during your 5K in an open water race, you might be going the wrong way. So practice that if you're practicing for an open water swimming and you're switching strokes at all. You're basically kind of swimming blind sometimes when you're outside. So
awesome. So we got some shout outs from Canada, Landon, some from Turkey, Istanbul, from Brazil. At my city, we don't have an indoor pool. Wow. So you must live in a really warm solid environment. Yeah. Jealous. So here we live in Michigan, and so the weather is just now changing so that we can go from indoor swimming to outdoors. Well, actually not yet. We still have to wait a little bit.
This is a great question from Facebook from Betty. Basically, what kind of goggles do you recommend? So there's a bunch of different goggles and different types, whether you're indoors in a pool, whether you're outdoors.
Hello from Australia. Hello from Iran. Hello from, where are you guys coming from? All right, so goggles. There's different kinds. So some goggles, like the old school Swedish goggles, was really popular, I think, all in a lot of Europe and the US. Like these are they're cheaper goggles, but not by quality. Like they don't have any padding, and
just simple, basic.
You basically, and it's cool because you can build them yourselves. The Swedes, that's solid. Hello from Russia.
Swedes, you guys are doing it right.
Yeah, the Swedish people, good job. But you don't. There's some fancy goggles too. You can spend up to $60 or $70 American dollars on a pair of goggles these days. I mean, and now we're gonna give a shout out to the Magic 5. They have an app where you can actually use your phone and it'll do a digital rendering of your face, and then you can get a custom set of goggles right there. And those are a little bit more expensive, but there's no one size fits all. So it's like a personalized goggle. So shout out to them. Go check out the Magic 5.
Also, if you're gonna swim in an open water race, there are certain types of goggles that have more visibility, so you can see, more, I guess, horizontal or laterally, which is really important for seeing swimmers on your sides. You can see the buoys. And also tinted and non-tinted goggles.
Oh, that's actually the most important part, tinted
so if you're
versus
swimming
non-tinted.
outside, you want to get some darker, you can either get dark blue or dark gray, or there's even some kind of like redder tones that are really going to help your eyes. Matter of fact, I actually had eye surgery on my eye last year because I swam too many years without sunglasses and without tinted goggles. So
you swim with sunglasses?
No, sorry.
You swim with sunglasses? What do you? He's confused. He's confused. No monkeying around.
Being on the pool deck, coaching, spending my whole life by the pool and the water and the ocean, or being outside, you definitely want to protect your eyes. And swimming, you don't realize that there's a lot of glare.
What color should they? What color goggles tinting?
I like dark blue ones. I have heard of swimmers they really like the red.
Yeah. I think the mirrored ones looks pretty cool. They're like silver, and then you can't like see where the person's looking. It's like a tinted car.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Cool. We got some tips coming in for how people are.
Brian Young. What's up, Brian? How you doing?
Awesome.
What
He
did
says
he say?
for cold water, open water races, I find it's a good idea to warm up in the water before the race. I've seen people get anxious when they start in the cold water and they're not warmed up, so they start breathing really shallow until they acclimate. That's a great tip. If you're swimming in an ocean or a river or a lake, the water's probably a lot colder than a pool. So definitely get in, warm up, get your body used to it, because if you, just like jumping in the pool, the moment you jump in, your body's going to kind of freak out and your muscles will tense up, and you need to stay warmed up all the time. So thanks for the tip, Brian.
Yeah, and kind of following up on that, just to give context, so a lot of time when you swim in a pool, it's maybe 78, 79, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you jump into most open water races are going to be in 65 degree water or even colder. So that 15 degree difference, and actually a lot of races won't even start if the water's that cold. They'll make you do an in-water start, so you'll actually have to completely submerge your head underwater just to like acclimate before you can even start the race. Oftentimes you don't see like where you like dive in and then start racing. That you can only do that kind of a race when the water temperature allows you to do that, where you're not going to be in like shock. So, but it's really good to kind of fully submerge your body and get in there. Okay, so I'm an open water swimmer, 7 to 8 kilometers. That's awesome. To swim more, you have to cope with cramps.
How do you cope with them?
How do you cope with cramps? I mean, what do you think? How do you deal with that?
A lot of cramping has to do with your diet.
Eating and hydration.
Yeah. Eating and hydration. Also, just stretching before and after you swim. I think that always helps. Naturally, when you start swimming, when you're kind of out of shape, your body's going to have a couple cramps here and there.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of cramps like in my calves.
Oh, the
and
calves,
in my feet,
the calves.
Especially with breaststroke. So
when I use fins, my calves.
Yeah, or with fins, if you're doing, especially fins, if you're adding some resistance on your kick, it's going to, add that tension in your legs. So make sure you're eating right, you're drinking enough water.
Nice.
And what time do I have to?
And so I would add on for the cramps, like I think a lot of it has to do with your timing for hydration and eating. So if you can map out when you eat, like for me, for example, I don't eat at all within a few hours of doing a swim workout. Some people are fine with 1 hour. Some people are fine with 30 minutes. I need like 3 hours plus between when I eat a decent meal and when I actually do a swim. And that goes for any distance swim, whether I was doing 1K or 5K or 10K. I don't do 10K anymore. But and we got a shout out from Brian from the Philippines. What's going on? We have a lot of countries. Tell us where you guys are starting out. Okay.
We got Mike White Hot. That's
Mike White Hot 400.
Nice.
He's asking, which is better event, the 400 IM or the 200 fly?
How about you guys tell us?
Yeah, you tell us.
Tell us in a comment, what would you rather swim, 400 IM or the 200 fly?
Shout out from Mexico. What's going on?
I don't want to swim either of them.
I don't want to swim either of them. But so I've done both of those races, and honestly, the 400 IM is much more taxing on your body. The 200 fly is relatively not simple, but it's only a 200 versus the 400 IM is 4 100s of each of the strokes. I think it takes a lot more training. You have to be in a lot better shape to close a 400 IM. Where a 200 fly, especially if it's short course. If it's a short course race, you can get by in a 200 butterfly, like 200 yards or 200 meters, relatively easily.
Here's a good question. We got Fluffy Sky on Instagram asking, what are some good swim training for a pool-based Olympic distance triathlon?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Also, a
go
follow-up
for
question is, when you're doing a triathlon, would you recommend training different strokes or just swimming freestyle?
Yeah, so a couple questions there. So
Yeah.
I would always recommend training different strokes, even if you're doing a triathlon or an open water race, because when you do butterfly and backstroke and breaststroke and kick, you engage a lot more muscle fibers and you work your body out a lot better than if you were to only do freestyle. So if you're training for open water, freestyle should be most of your training, but I'd always recommend doing some IM training. And what was the first part of the question? It was about...
For a pool-based Olympic
best kind of
distance
training. So you should
triathlon.
download our app, AskASwimPro. We've got different training plans. One of them is the Olympic distance triathlon. Triathlon or open water training plan. 12-week plan, 2 to 3 workouts per week. And I would say, like we were talking about, the best training is freestyle and doing a lot of pull and everything. But incorporating a little bit of speed work and a little bit of IM training is going to build the best feel of the water, which is ultimately what you want to perform the best, even in open water or in the pool. Okay, so we're going to, hello from Hungary. See ya. What's up?
She's asking,
See ya.
why do you have a monkey?
We have a monkey. So if you didn't know, we just came back from the Garmin Developer Conference in Kansas, and the Garmin Connect IQ app is out. You should check it out for AskASwimPro if you have a Garmin app. And the language that runs the Garmin apps is Monkey See. So we have a monkey in the office, and he's always encouraging us. And he decided to jump in on the show today, and he's waving at everyone. Go ahead and wave back the monkey. He's even saying hi. All right, so maybe one more question before we sign off. Anyone have any last questions?
Olga saying, thank you guys. You're both so sympathetic. Greetings from Istanbul.
Greetings from Istanbul.
Are the biggest family on earth. Swimmers are the best, aren't they?
Swimmers are the best. Open water race next month. Good luck from Argentina.
Cool. I guess if there's no more questions, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of AskASwimPro. You ask questions, we have answers.
We'll
Bye.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Later.